attention, if that's okay, we might get going. I know there's a few people down the back there if they want to have a few seats before we start. I'd like to welcome you all, each and every one of you here this evening. It's great that so many, it really is to see so many people here. And it really shows us that we all take minding our mental well-being and each other's seriously. My name is Tracy Kelly, for any of you that don't know me. I'm the chair of the Leitrim GAA Health and Wellbeing Committee, and this is also my parish home, just in case you hear me talking later and you're wondering what she's on about. Hubert McHugh is one of our committee members, so we have a committee with the Leitrim Health and Wellbeing, and Hubert's one of our committee, and he's part of the main organiser, I suppose, behind this evening's event. Hubert mentioned to me earlier this year that he wanted to organise a mental health event through the Killenummery and Killery Community Hub, and asked if Leitrim GAA wanted to get involved. And of course, we didn't hesitate. We all go through difficult times, no matter what stage of life we're at, from social media pressure, school, college, work, family, health. The list is endless. And now on top of all this, we have the most recent issues of the COVID pandemic and the cost of living crisis, which both will continue to affect us all in different ways over the coming months. As highlighted by Carol Coleman on the launch night last month, there's huge importance in communities coming together to support each other during these difficult times, and it's great to be able to bring this event to our local community here. A prime example of how communities come together in support of each other during the pandemic and other times of celebrations and sadness. We've witnessed firsthand here the various groups coming together to host this evening's event, from the women's group providing the refreshments, our local club for helping with the traffic and parking, and to the Hall Committee, in particular Kevin Torsney and Jerry Fowley for all their hard work in getting everything set up for the launch and tonight's talk. Most of the entertainment here this evening is an example of some of the great talent that we have here locally, and maybe Charlie might want to be part of our community for tonight. The GAA takes minding our physical and mental well-being extremely seriously, providing support and encouragement to us all in any way that we can. In many communities throughout our county, the local GAA club plays a huge part in these events. The GAA Healthy Club project is an initiative that was set up by the Community and Health Department in Croke Park, which is managed by Colin Regan. And we're delighted that Colin is here with us this evening, and he'll go into more detail of this later on. But the main part is to help clubs to highlight the great work that you bring to your players, members, volunteers and wider community. I'm also the Healthy Club Officer for our local club here in Dromahair, and I've been seeing firsthand the impact that being involved in the Healthy Club project has made for everyone, both the club and community. If any club here this evening would like more details, please don't hesitate to contact me. As Bernie, one of our committee members, said to me recently, wouldn't it be great if we could get Leitrim to be the first county to get all the clubs officially recognised as a healthy club? When I contacted some of our GAA speakers, they didn't hesitate to want to get involved and speak this evening. I was speaking with Justin Campbell earlier today, and unfortunately he's very disappointed he's not able to attend. But as I said to him, tonight's theme is minding our health, and this applies to him too. We wish him all the best and hope he feels better soon. We'll hopefully get to organise for Justin to come up to Leitrim soon for a talk, as he's extremely knowledgeable and great to listen to. Leitrim GAA were only too happy to participate in this event, and a great example is the support from our colleagues, including having some here this evening, and our Leitrim GAA Senior Team Manager Andy Moran here, and we look forward to hearing him talk later on. Our Leitrim GAA County Chairperson Enda Stenson sends his sincere apologies that he can't make it. Unfortunately, there's a meeting that he had to attend, but he, along with others, send their well wishes and are fully behind this evening's message to you all. Thank you to Kevin Torsney for reminding me of how appropriate it is that we are holding this event in our parish here in Killenummery from a Leitrim GAA perspective. In the late 1800s, the very first GAA club in Leitrim was set up here, called Killenummery PA McHugh's, and the first GAA club in the county was more than likely between them and Dromahair Joe Biggers. Not only that, but the very first chairperson in the Leitrim County Board, Tom Fallon, was also from Killenummery, and that was in 1889. There's many statistics available around mental health in Ireland, so I'm not going to bore you listing them all. But I just want to point out one that I thought was interesting. From a survey that took place since COVID-19 pandemic, as outlined by St Patrick's Mental Health Services, 66% of those surveyed believe that in Irish society today, It is still seen as a personal failure to look for help, and 16 thought it was a sign of weakness. Personally, I believe we all have physical and mental health which needs to be looked after. If you were aware that your physical well-being was starting to deteriorate, you would reach out to a professional, like a GP. If you don't, it would get worse and ultimately would take longer to recover. We know there are various things we can do to mind our physical health to stay fit and healthy, such as a healthy, balanced diet and exercise. The same can be said for your mental health. We're all unique, and finding what helps us to look after our mental well-being is unique to you. I like to describe our mental health like a fizzy drink in a bottle. If you shake the bottle once and open it, it'll fizz, but only a small bit. But if you continuously shake the bottle, the fizz builds up and eventually bursts. The same can be said for your mental well-being. If you struggle and speak to someone, it can be hard, but it's easier to deal with. If you don't deal with your mental health challenges and they continue to build up, they can eventually lead to a much difficult place. But ultimately, they can still be dealt with the right support and assistance. As some of the stats mentioned, the percentage of people who still think to admit that you need support with your mental well-being is a sign of weakness or personal failure is a big concern from my own perspective. I believe that those who are struggling with their mental health and manage to get up each day, go to work or school, and to speak to someone to say how they're feeling is showing huge strength and courage. Sometimes it helps to talk to a stranger, and as you can see from the many stands we have here, it's just a small example of some of the supports that's out there. Just to finish off, we all struggle at some stage in our lives, and it would be amiss of me not to mention my own struggles when we're trying to encourage you all to talk. From my professional life, I'm aware of the various things you can do to mind your mental health, but it doesn't stop me from having my own struggles. 7.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a number of medical conditions, and the main one being an autoimmune condition called Addison's disease. I struggled to process this diagnosis mentally, many times, such as when I was diagnosed as it's life-changing, and during the pandemic, as I was classed medically vulnerable. This day, 2 weeks ago, I was admitted to hospital for surgery, and the lead-up was a big struggle for me, as Addison's disease added more complications to the surgery. But this is the reason why I'm reading this directly, because my memory isn't too great at the moment. I'm still recovering, so I hope you understand. The week leading up to the surgery, I was thinking, this day next week I'll be admitted to hospital, this day next week I'll be going in for the surgery. But once it got to, but I was finding it harder to make plans for the surgery as I wasn't sure how it would go. For the first couple of days when I was struggling, I tried all the things that usually work for me. Going for a walk in nature, going to the beach and listening to the waves, and trying to do some meditations. But after a couple of days, I realised I needed more help. So I went to my parents and to our local parish priest here, Father Patsy, and they were amazing. I'm not ashamed to say that if I was still struggling, I was prepared to go to my GP, but thankfully I reached out in time. I'm not saying it removed my anxiety altogether, but it definitely helped me, knowing that I wasn't on my own, with others knowing that I was struggling and checking in on me. I'm delighted to say the surgery went well, thank God, but it reminds us all that challenges with our mental health can happen at any stage, for any reason, but it doesn't have to last very long. I hope you enjoy all the great speakers and entertainment that we have here for you this evening, and I'd like to finish with a phrase that we've all heard many times. Please remember, it's okay to not be okay, and even more okay to ask for help. Now I'm going to hand you over to Valerie. She's the co-founder of Leitrim's Health is Wealth and our MC for the night.
Good evening, everybody. You're all very welcome here to St Mary's Church for the Killenummery and Killery Community Hub Health and Wellbeing Night. That in itself is a mouthful to say, but anyway, we got through it. This event tonight has been live streamed through YouTube, so hello to everybody who's with us here virtually tonight as well. Just to give you all a rundown of how we expect the night to go, or we hope to go anyway. We have had to make, obviously, a slight change to the lineup. As Tracy said, unfortunately, Justin Campbell is unwell, and he's not able to be with us tonight, so we send him our best wishes and hope he has a speedy recovery. But we have lined up another speaker for you, and we're delighted to have Martin McHugh here with us tonight. Most of you will know Martin as the goalie from the famous Leitrim team of 1994 who won the Connacht title. So Martin will be talking to us later on. As well as Martin, we will also be meeting Frank Diamond and Martina Mitchell in our first half. And to get the night started off for us, we are going to have some music from the McPadden family and some dancing from Lorcan. And local man Patrick Hugh Kelly is also going to give us a song. After the first half, we're just going to have an interval of about 20 minutes just to give you a chance to stretch your legs and to use the toilets if you need to. Just to say about the toilets, if you go out the door of the church and go to the left, there is a toilet around there. There are also toilets down at the hall. You can walk down to use the toilets there. If there are anybody with mobility issues, there is a car outside that will actually take you down to the hall so that you can use the toilets if you need. We are also having our raffle just at the end of the interval as well. You probably bought raffle tickets on the way in. If you haven't, you can still buy them, and we'll be starting back then after the raffle. Our second half, Charlie McGettigan, our good friend, is going to get us going for the second half. Then we'll be meeting Andy Moran and Colin Regan, and then at the very end, our parish priest, Father Patsy, will just say a few words, and Pat Sweeney and Katrina Horn will send us on our way home with some music and song as well. So we might as well get started, and we'll get some music from the McPadden family, and Patrick Hugh is going to give us a song then after that as well.
There's a girl from Connemara, far west of Galway town. Her blue eyes glow with beauty, and her red hair flowing down. She lives among the mountains, where wild, wild heather grows, and her name is Kate O'Hara. She's my Connemara rose. The first place that I met her on the road to the Rare. I know somehow, someplace, somewhere, she'll be tenant of my heart. She smiled at me so peacefully as the stream beside us flowed. And from that day on, I'll ne'er forget my Connemara rose. She comes from Connemara, far west of Galway town. Her blue eyes glow with beauty, and the red hair's flowing down. She lives among the mountains, where wild, wild heather grows, and her name is Kate O'Hara. She's my Connemara rose. It seems that endless time has passed since again I saw her smile. The memory of her love sustained me every lonely mile. She was waiting as she promised when I came back to propose, and to ask her father for the hand of my Connemara rose. Tomorrow we will walk the aisle in that little church in Man. 'Tis there we'll take the vows for life, to live and work as one. Our sons will grow to manhood where the wild, wild heather grows, and I hope that they'll be proud like me of their Connemara rose. She comes from Connemara, far west of Galway town. Her blue eyes glow with beauty, and her red hair's flowing down. She lives among the mountains, where wild, wild heather grows, and her name is Kate O'Hara. She's my Connemara rose.
Thank you very much. That's a great way to get the night started. A welcome to Norton as well. Now, we're going to get our first guest speaker up here for the night. Would you please give a very warm welcome to Mr. Frank Diamond from the Alp Suicide Prevention Organisation.
So good evening, everybody. Big man round there, boy. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. Absolutely delighted, privileged to be here with you this evening. You probably recognise my accent. I'm not from these neck of the woods. I come from Balahi in South Derry, and one of the diamond football connection from that side. I know there's diamonds in the village here as well. We're not related, so it's a different diamond. So hopefully you understand my accent, because I had some difficulty understanding some of your accents here this evening. So hopefully you understand me. I work for a charity called Alps, All Lives Are Precious, and we deliver programs on mental health, well-being, resilience training, and QPR suicide prevention training, and also free counselling. So the type of training, the QPR, it's, you know the way you've got CPR for the heart? Well, QPR is for the head. And the Q, it's not Queen's Park Rangers when you hear QPR. The Q is for question, the P is persuasion, and the R is referral. Okay? So it's a wonderful life skill, sadly, that we all need. We're coming out of a pandemic of COVID, but we all know we have a pandemic of suicide in our country, and we've had for years. Everybody in this church knows somebody who has sadly died by suicide. And it's a community effort to try and end the stigma and try and reduce suicide as best we can. It's everybody's role, okay? And that's the beauty of this type of training. So Q is question, P is persuasion, R is referral. So I'm just going to lead you through a little scenario. If you ever find yourself in, at least you'll be aware of how to deal with it. I mean, the training lasts 5 hours, but I'm just going to give you a scenario to help if you ever need it, okay? So say my friend Michael's here, and I've picked up Michael's just not himself. And again, the trainings, it teaches you different signs to look out for, etc. But he's not himself. I say, Michael, you're not yourself. What's going on? And typical fella, Michael will say, I'm grand, Frank. Ask a second time, okay? You're not grand, Michael. There's stuff going on here for you. What is it? And hopefully at that stage, Michael will be open and he'll say, look, broke up with a girlfriend. I'm taking a bit of cocaine and I'm just not in a good headspace, Frank. And sometimes I think the world would be better without me. If you hear that type of language, alarm bells should ring, okay? So the first thing then, I'll say to Michael, look, Michael, I'm here with you every step of the way to support you. We'll get through this together. You've got somebody to lean on. And then the next thing you'll do, you'll ask the question directly. I'll ask Michael, Michael, are you having any suicidal thoughts or feelings or ideation? Okay, you ask it directly. There's a myth goes round that says if you don't ask a question, or if you do ask a question, you'll be putting it into their head. That's a myth. It's already there if it's there. And again, Michael, if it is there, he'll say to me, yeah, I'm having suicidal thoughts, Frank. And for him, there's a huge relief just to get it out of his head and share it with someone. So again, I'll reinforce my friendship with him. We'll get through it together, Michael. And then you ask, after that, did you have a plan in place? Unfortunately, there's usually always a plan in place. So again, hopefully Michael will share it with me. Whatever it is, I'll help remove that with him. And then I'll say to him, does anybody else know how you're feeling, Michael? And he'll probably say no. I say, who do you love most in the world? He'll probably say his mum or his dad. And I'll say, look, Michael, I'll go with you now. We'll go right now together and we'll share how you're feeling with your mommy, okay? So I'll go with him. Again, he'll share with his mum. First thing his mum will do, he'll give him a big hug and say how much she loves him. And you have somebody else in the safety net. And then after that is the referral piece where you bring in Alps, Pieta, CAMS, whoever the professional body is nearby, and there's plenty of signposts here, okay, in Leitrim and all. You bring them in to professionally support Michael on that next step of the journey. Is that okay? And the last wee thing, and it'll get a wee bit lighter then, but it's important because I didn't know when I first did the training, I didn't know these things myself. Say Michael says to me, Frank, I'm having some suicidal thoughts, but don't tell anybody. This is between me and you, confidential. You absolutely go and bring somebody in to support Michael. Even though he's saying not to tell anybody, that is a cry for help in itself. Sadly, we're dealing with a situation in the north where that scenario happened. And there's a girl coming to our counselling services. Her friend told her not to tell anybody. She didn't tell anybody, and her friend sadly died by suicide. Okay? So you reach out if you ever find yourself in that situation. Okay? Now, the rest of the thread of my talk is around the power of human connection. And I see the Connecting for Life is on the bag here, so that's a wee sign. I'm sponsor for a friend of mine, Eric, who is a recovering cocaine and alcohol addict. And he attempted suicide twice, but thankfully survived. And he attended Ashery, the addiction centre, recovery centre down in County Clare, Tipperary. Sorry, my Geography's not great. But he did the program, and he's 1 year sober. And a few weeks ago, we went down to Asherie, which actually means resurrection. And we went down for the 1 year sobriety medallion. And it was one of the most powerful, emotional, and humbling experiences of my life. I've been to Croke Park a few times, seen All Ireland's, and fortunate enough to win a couple myself. But that was one of the highlights of my life, to experience what happened there. To see Eric stand up and receive his medallion, and other folk there receiving theirs. And there was an 8, because addiction, all that's going on in here can be masked through addictions, whatever that addiction may be. And there was a young girl, 18 years of age, and she got up, and she was a recovering cocaine and alcohol addict, 18. And she went through Asherie twice, and she was there receiving her 1 year sobriety medallion. On her arm, she had the tattoo, broken crayons, still colour. Broken crayons, still colour. I think that's a powerful message in that for all of us. We all have experienced some sort of brokenness, whatever that may be, but we can still colour the rest of our journey. And she said, for her, addiction is the opposite of connection. Addiction is the opposite of connection. And that absolutely struck a very strong chord with me, because when I look at life, it's not about the money. You know the song by Jesse J, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not about the big house. It's not about the car. Life is about connection. Firstly, how we connect with ourselves, our own self-care, self-love journey humbly, and how we see ourselves. And then secondly, how we connect with those around us. And I use the analogy of life being like a rose. There's some beautiful flowers here. A rose is beautiful. What does every rose have? Thorns. We all have good days and bad days. Every single one of us on this planet. If I was to go around the church here now and ask you to share a challenge you have in your life at the minute, you would be shocked and humbled to hear what people in this church are going through at the minute. We just don't know. And that's why I always say just to be kind, because we don't know. But the thorns in our lives, how do we get through them? We use our mental resilience. We all have it, but we all need to practice it every day. But we can't do it by ourselves. We need to reach out and connect when the gremlins, I call them gremlins, those negative thoughts, self-talking, overthinking, all that, comparing stuff that's going on in here, to connect with someone and reach out and share them. In one chapter of my life, I was a missionary priest for 14 years. And I spent 9 years working as a missionary in Africa. And 4 key tools I learned in Africa to help with our own well-being, resilience, and suicide prevention were the following. The first one is to appreciate the simple things in life. The second one was the power of community and connectedness, just like the GAA calling. Thirdly, gratitude. And fourthly, the power of living in the moment. 4 key tools for all of us. And where I was based was the back of beyond. It was a bit like the parish around here, driving down the road here. I thought I was back in Africa. Where I was based, there was mud huts, no electricity, no running water, and the toilet situation was the following. Out round the back, a 6-foot hole dug in the ground with branches over the top, circle in the middle, and a bamboo shelter, and that was it. That was my toilet. So the next time you go to the toilet and you flush that wee bad boy, you thank God, because there are millions and millions of people in the world who do not have access to a flush toilet. Fact, I didn't have one for 9 years. Every time I go home my holidays in Balahi, I was in that toilet for about 15 minutes. But yo, ka-ching, happy days. Flush toilet. The simple things in life. Then running water. We harvested the rainwater into tanks. In the evening time then, when I was going for a wash, I heated up a pot of water on the fire, because I don't do cold. We've done the old ice baths crack back in the day. Good luck to the ice baths. Anyway, I got a bucket of hot water into the room. I had an empty paint tin, fitted into the bucket, give myself a rinse, bit of a scrub, bit of a rinse down, and that was my ensuite for 9 years. But I was very lucky to have that, because my neighbours down the road didn't have any of that. They had to walk 3-4 kilometres to the nearest river to fetch water and wash themselves. The simple things. And whenever I went out to the village, the people give you a great welcome, just like I'd received here today. They kill the chicken for you. Now, they only get chicken 4 or 5 times a year, but they'll kill the chicken for the priest. and all the rest. You know the way Father Patsy gets his apple tart and all when he goes visiting you guys. Same old crack out there. So after you're fed and what, I would stay sometimes in the village at night. So you bring a sleeping bag, a mosquito net, and a torch. At night, there's no electricity. What do you think they do for light? They get the big fire going. So the big chief, and they gather around the fire, and they bring out the goat skin and the dog skin drums. They start bum-ba-da-bum. Now, as you know, Africans are full of rhythm and music. They all know how to shake and dance. So I get up and I join in for a bit of crack, trying to connect with them. And I am so white, I'm like a walking torch. It's like the razor coming out of my face. And I get up and I do an old chicken dance, an old thing, this crack. Yo, big lad. And sure, they're bursting their sides of this big Derry man with a funny Derry accent, speaking their language, trying to dance. And I bring the guitar out with me. Chance my arm at singing, which you'll find out in a wee minute. God loves a trier. And I love Christy Moore. And one of my favourite songs, and all Tyrone people love it, it's called I Wish I Was Back Home in Derry. And I'm teaching the kids the chorus. And I have all these wee kids going, oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. They haven't a clue where Derry is. Not a clue from Adam. But are they happy? The happiest people that I ever met in my life were the people in Africa. And I often think back to those nights, that community, that connectedness, the music, what we're celebrating, the singing, the dog, all that's going on there, right? We need to bring that back now to Ireland. And unfortunately, the last 2 years has been really difficult with COVID and this bad boy here. This is a depressant, make no mistake about it, okay? All I'm saying to folk, and I use it like everyone, just be mindful of how long you spend on your phones, especially our younger folk. We have seen a 50% increase in our counselling services with young people who have an addiction to their phone. They just can't, they have anxiety attacks, panic attacks if they don't have their phone. And I say, and they're on TikTok and Instagram and this crack, and they think they're connected. This is so false. And never compare yourself to anybody you see on social media. In fact, never compare yourself to anybody in life. Because you are who you are. And that is the gift that you bring to this world. And there might be somebody in this church tonight who needs to hear this. You are enough. And you always will be enough. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone. One of my favourite movies is The Greatest Showman. And that movie is all about diversity and inclusion. And that's another chapter, and we'll be talking another time about that. But it's a powerful thing, the gift of inclusiveness. And I wish I turned 50 this year, and I wish somebody had told me this years ago. Try not to worry what other people think about you. Honest to God, in Ireland we're brutal for that. I've realised now that it's actually none of Frank Diamond's business when anybody else thinks about me. I can't control that. All we can do is to control the controllables. I'm here now this evening. Some of you I'll connect with. Some of you will be saying, what is that boy Frank Diamond smoking? And that's okay, because I'm doing my best, and I'll go up the road, and I've done my best. You know, that's life. So try not, as I say, compare yourself to anybody else. In 1995, 27 years ago, I first went to Africa, to Zambia. And I went for a student from Maynooth University. And I was in a parish, and it was Christmas Eve. And I was there for midnight mass. And I was standing in the mud hut church, mud altar at the top. The only light was a lamp connected to the Land Rover outside, pitch dark. And I'm standing anyway, and the next thing, the gremlins came into my head. And it was the gremlin of homesickness and loneliness. And funny, one of the themes for mental health this year was the feeling of loneliness and how to overcome loneliness. And we all feel lonely at times, whether it's married life, single life, being a padre, whatever it is. How do you deal with it? You connect with somebody and share your feelings of loneliness. So I'm standing anyway, and the old tears were welling up. And the next thing, a tear came down my cheek. And I kid you not, I'm standing like this. At that moment, I felt a little hand squeeze my hand. And I looked down, and there was a 4 or 5 year old little girl holding my hand. And looking up at me with the most beautiful smile. All I could see was this smile. Straight away, the picture in Frankie D's head changed. Out went that gremlin, and in came a positive Care Bear. I call the positive stuff Care Bears. All because of the power of human connection. The power of someone holding your hand. The power of a smile. And sometimes that's all it takes to help someone get through a tough day, is just a wee smile Or how's it going there, mucker? Okay? And she held my hand the whole way during Mass. A Mass in Africa lasts 2 hours. Some crack, right? Some crack. A Father Patsy keeps you 2 hours on a Sunday. Lord save us, there wouldn't be too many back the next week. Right? And I just kept smiling. And I came out and I met her mum and dad. And the little girl's name was Joy. Her name was Joy. And I became friendly with the family. And after my year there, I came back to Maynooth, finished my studies, was ordained a priest, and then I was sent to Nigeria. But I kept in touch with the family. And in Africa, you have to pay school fees to go to school. So I sent money out to help Joy and sponsored her to go through school. So she went through primary school, she went through secondary school, she went to teacher training college. She's now a primary school teacher. She's married, she's 2 little boys, and one of her little boys is called Frank. And that's the power of human connection. Just, you just never know the impact you'll have in somebody's life. And a wee story around gratitude. Where I was based, it was very remote. It was a 1-hour drive to the nearest small hospital. And there was one day a heavily pregnant lady came up to the front door in labour, and things just weren't going the Georgie best, right? So I knew I needed to get her to that hospital, a 1-hour drive. So I had a 10-year-old Defender Land Rover. Put her into the back of the Land Rover, 4-wheel drive, we set sail. 10 minutes from arriving at the hospital, she gave birth to the baby in the back of my Land Rover. Some crack, right? Anyway, I drove as fast as I could. I ran in. I got the nurse. Nurse came out. She got the baby, umbilical cord, the whole thing in. And all I could do was say a wee prayer that everything would be okay. And thank God it was. A week later, I'm back in the house. And the next thing, I see the lady coming, walking up to the front door, carrying her newborn baby in this arm, and carrying a live chicken tied by the legs in this hand. And she comes up and she hands me the live chicken to say, thank you for helping out. That was one of the most humbling moments in my life, without doubt. That woman is nothing, and yet she came back with the gift of the chicken. And gratitude is a powerful feeling and emotion. And just like resilience, we need to practice gratitude every day. When we are thankful, we're living in the moment. We're not worried about the future, we're not worried about the past, we're in the moment, and that's great for our headspace. And there's a friend of mine, some of you may know him from Mullingar, Jerry Duffy. Jerry wrote a couple of books, he's a motivational speaker, but he talks about the power of language. And you know the way sometimes we say things like, I have to go to work today, or I have to go to school, or I have to go and wash my hair, it's a bit stinky. I have to. If you take out the word have, and replace it with the word get, it changes the whole mindset of how we think. I get to go to work. So many now are unemployed. I get to go to school. So many don't get that chance. I get to go and have a shower or a bath, whatever it may be. I get to do that. See the subtle difference there? And it keeps me grounded, so it does. Then another chapter, my life, left the ministry, got married, and I have 2 little girls, Karina and Alicia, 7 and 8. And Alicia has Down syndrome. And greatest gift, the 2 of them are the greatest gift in my life. But Alicia, all those with Down syndrome, all those with different needs, they teach us so much about what's important in life. First of all, they teach us how to love unconditionally. They love you no matter what. If Alicia came in here now, she'll go straight up to each one of you and she'll give you the best wee hug. They give the best hugs, and she'll say, I love you. And there's a guy called the Dalai Lama. He's the head guru guy for Buddhism. And somebody asked him once, what is love? And he replied, love is the absence of judgment. Love is the absence of judgment. Who are we to judge anyone? What we should do is to try and help people to get back up on their feet. And Alicia, all those with Down syndrome and different needs, they don't know how to judge. They don't know how to judge themselves, and they don't know how to judge others. But guess what? We're damn good at it. We're very good at judging ourselves harshly, beating ourselves up, negative talk, overthinking, all that jazz, and we're also very good at judging. I think it's because we're an island people and a little dot on this planet. So Leisha's telling all of us this evening, okay? Do not be so hard on yourself and don't judge yourself so harshly. You make a mistake because you're a human being, you learn from it and you drive on. I know Frozen 1 and Frozen 2 now back to front, having 2 daughters. So you know the song, let it go, let it go, just let it go and drive on. This cracking back and beating yourself. Like Andy, if you missed an out score or a call, you didn't go back and replay it. You drive on, you get the next ball and you horse it over the bar, as you both did. Do you know what I'm saying? And then judging others. I'll give you an example. Say Mary and Michael here down the road, okay? Build a nice new house. You have 2 types of reaction to that in the community. First one, well, fair play to Mary and Michael. Worked hard, saved a bit of money, boy, built a nice house for themselves. Fair play to them. And then some other members will be going, here, where did your man Michael get the money to build that house? Big man's pushing cocaine down the town. He's up to no good, don't boy. You know the old crack. So again, just be like Leisha. And Leisha, if I take my phone out, and Leisha's there, she makes this noise. She goes, Daddy. And she's telling me in her own unique way to put the phone away. I am here now. Be present to me. And again, she's 100% correct. Being present. 75% of us, we're like this every day. What are we not missing out by not lifting up our head and looking around us? We're missing out on life, or we're missing out on the power of human connection. And last week, story about Alicia, she's character. Her first word when she was 3-year-old, her first word was nice. Nice, be kind. My older daughter, a year older, Karina, I kid you not, her first word was Calpol. Calpol! Wasn't mom a bad parent? No judgment. Calpol. The wee girl was addicted to Calpol. Now, she's 8 years of age. We got that sorted. We went to Calpol Anonymous. So all's good now. But I'm going to finish with a wee song, okay? It's not Back Home in Derry or the Red and Green of Mayo or lovely Leitrim. But it's a wee song called Lean On Me. And it ties in with my message tonight. We all need somebody to lean on. No man is an island. No woman is an island, okay? And we're never alone. Whether it's addiction, whatever it is you have going on, your challenges, you're not alone. Please, please reach out, connect, and lean on somebody, okay? So you can all join in now. I wouldn't be the best singer except Colin and Andy. They were unbelievable footballers, but they're brutal at singing. Okay, I wouldn't be the best singer in the world, but God loves a trier. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. So lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. And if there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll help share your load. If you just call me, you just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. Might have a problem that you want to stand. We all need somebody to lean on. So lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Somebody to lean on. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Frank Diamond, everybody. Now, next up tonight, we're about to meet a lovely lady who has come all the way from South Leitrim to North Leitrim. Will you please give a very warm welcome to Miss Martina Mitchell.
Thank you, Valerie.
Now, can everyone hear us like that?
No.
I'm going to hold. Is this even on? Is this on, John? Yeah? Working?
Yeah? Yeah. It's working now.
Any better? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Marit. Martina, you're very welcome. We're delighted to have you here with us tonight, and you're going to share with us, I suppose, your own very personal story, and it's a story of true resilience, really. I suppose some people may have read your story recently in the Irish Times and the Leitrim Observer, but I suppose for those who haven't, just to give them a bit of background, I suppose you're from Ballinamore.
Ballinamore, yeah.
You were reared in a happy family. You had both your parents, your sisters, your brother, and a granny you were very close to as well.
Yeah, she was a comical lady. Like, she really kept me going. Real old style lady.
Okay. And tell me, when did things start to change for you?
It all changed when I was 10. My father went to work one day and he never came home. He had a massive heart attack. He was only 42. And it was like a light went out on me. Everything changed for me from that point onwards. Yeah. I never felt safe again. And then there was the transition into secondary school. That actually left me completely out of my comfort zone. I went from a rural school into it, and I ended up a bit of bullying there from people about my weight, and I ended up developing bulimia, which I battled for probably a year and a half.
Yeah. So there was a lot of change in a very short space of time for you.
Absolutely, the grief wasn't dealt with, and it led on into this self-hate of myself.
Yeah.
So I actually got help with that and counselling. My mum helped me out and got me through that.
And how long had you been, I suppose, having difficulty with the eating disorder before you, I suppose, anybody realised what was happening, or that you did reach out and get help?
I'd say a good year. Yeah, a good year.
So it was going on quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat. When I'd eat, I'd feel dirty. Like I wasn't worth the food going into me even. Just really bad self-confidence.
And then the bullying on top of that just compounded everything that you felt about yourself as well. Yeah. So you did get help with that.
I did, yes.
And you came through it.
I did.
And that in itself is a huge achievement. It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
And you got through that, and the next thing you found out at 16 years of age that you were pregnant.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
From the conception to through the pregnancy, through the actual delivery, it was all awfully traumatic, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That's all I can call it. Yeah. I lived in fear every day. I didn't tell anyone I was expecting. Went to school, continued on, done my leaving afterwards. Mm-hmm. But I actually couldn't just get the words out to say that I need help, I'm pregnant. They just wouldn't come.
And when we spoke before about this, you said it was like you were watching yourself
Literally,
going through the pregnancy. It was nearly like an out-of-body experience, that you were watching yourself going through this, but if you didn't say the words out loud, you could pretend it wasn't happening.
Real then. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a really hard time. But the day I actually told someone was the day I was in labour. I was after being in labour the full day, and I was at school up until the day before. And it was actually my sister Caroline, she's here tonight. She brought me to the hospital, and we thought once we got there we'd be okay and we'd be safe. But when we got there, we weren't received very nicely.
Okay. So that night you were at home, and it came to the stage where you needed to go to the hospital. So you had to say that you needed to go, and you told your sister, and you were driven to the hospital, and both yourself and your sister went in, and I suppose you were hoping to be cared for and looked after, but that wasn't the experience.
In some way that you were going to get help, but no.
That's not what happened. Tell us a bit about what happened.
Well, from we went in, the first thing was the nurses wanted to know all the details of how I got pregnant and all this. And anyone who would come into the room, they'd whisper behind their mouths like, this is a concealed pregnancy. And there was actually an older lady there who actually shouted at me in the middle of labour. And it was just when I said to Caroline, please sign the epidural form. It was something as simple as that, and she snapped at me. And it just, I was so frightened. I can't explain how frightened they made me. And I went on, had the baby, and was in total shock.
Yeah, yeah.
Complete
And
shock.
your mum then was brought in at some stage as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, unbeknownst to me, my other sister who was married had went into labour and had landed to the same hospital in labour where I was after giving birth.
So both of you and your sister had a baby the same night?
Hours apart, yeah. So Mammy actually landed there, whether I liked it or not, she was there then.
Yeah.
But, you know, the poor woman, she was after losing her husband, 6 kids. So I actually couldn't put it on her. And I said, we'll actually give the baby up, Mammy, and we'll be okay. No one will know.
Yeah. And she was extremely shocked as well when she came in.
Oh, the poor woman. She had no support either. Like, back then, that was 98 when I gave birth. But the supports weren't there. They really weren't.
And I suppose that's something that I still find amazing to think that we're not talking about 1970s, 1980s
Exactly,
Ireland.
yeah.
We're talking about 1998. That's not that long ago. And this was still the experience that you had, that you were judged and you were mortified yourself coming in. You were made to feel
Ashamed of myself, yes.
of yourself.
Like, they never asked anything as to how I got there in that position.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really hard, really hard.
So take us then to after the birth, you know, the baby, you had a little baby boy.
Beautiful, healthy boy, yes.
And tell us about what happened.
I went home with my mum, and then social services got involved, and we were assigned a social worker. And what I had wanted was to leave the baby in care and try and get my head together and let people know that I'd had a baby even.
Yeah, because nobody knew you had a
Nobody knew,
baby.
except
Even
my
after
sister.
you had the baby still. Your mother and your sister, I think, was it the only people that knew?
That's all that knew. Everyone else thought I had a kidney infection.
Okay,
So I was off school 2 months, maybe 3 months at the time
yeah.
of my leaving cert year. But yeah, the social worker, I thought she would be on my side. And any time I asked about how, one time my mum actually asked if she could take the baby and bring it up, would there be any financial support for me? And she told me no, because I was underage.
Okay,
Loads of stuff. There was no support. Nobody wanted the baby to be placed with me. It was about this adoptive couple that were better than me.
okay,
And it was all finance based because my mother was a widow
yeah,
and she didn't have the money.
okay.
So
So that made it
horrific.
even worse, you know, and felt that you weren't good enough. You just brought all those feelings back about your own self-worth and everything as well. So, Sean, your baby was placed with a foster family.
Yeah.
And you did get to see him at one stage.
I insisted at 6 months that I wanted to see him against the judgment of the social worker. Didn't want me to go and see him. She
Yeah.
said it'd be too hard.
Yeah.
But myself and my sister Caroline went and seen him. And we were only given 5 minutes alone with him. But those 5 minutes were the only moments I had with him.
Yeah.
And we hugged and kissed him and told him how much we loved him. And Caroline, I burst into tears and told Caroline, I want my baby. Like that day, if I could have walked out with him in my arms, I would have.
And
But
you
I
have a
wasn't brave
picture
enough.
with you tonight of
I have it.
that day that you met your baby.
That is,
That's your little boy.
you can see it there. I was only 17 there, and that's when I started to fight and say, I want my baby.
And you did go and fight it as much as you
I
could.
physically could. At 6 months, or a few months before that, I'd been told to sign a form. I needed to sign a form for the baby. If anything happened, he might need medical attention. That form turned it out to be signing the baby away, my rights.
But you were never told that.
No.
You didn't understand that. It was
And
done behind your
the
back.
social worker told me she was going by English law instead of Irish law. And that was her excuse for messing up my entire life.
Okay.
Because I eventually told my whole family, my granny, she was an elderly lady, she was the worst person I was afraid of telling, and she was the most supportive. My brother, my sisters, they were all ready to hand.
And the family were all excited
So
about
happy,
having this
could
little
not
boy,
wait to have
and
him.
were preparing for him to come, and had
yeah,
bought
got
clothes,
clothes,
and
got-
started to make a cot and different things for him, and he was going to be welcomed as part
Oh my
of
God,
the
he would
family.
have been loved so much.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
No.
You didn't get your baby back.
No. Because of a mistake of the wrong law, I was told then.
Yeah.
So the social worker got me in touch with legal aid even, and I went up to the High Court, and the barrister told me that legal aid wouldn't take on my case because there was no financial gain, and I'd signed this form that I hadn't a clue what I was signing, 16.
Yeah. That's very hard to take.
It was the trust then. Me and that lady were just, I couldn't believe that this could happen,
Yeah.
Couldn't.
Yeah. So we come to your baby's 3rd birthday. Tell us about that.
At this stage, I knew I couldn't take the baby back from the people he knew as his new adoptive parents. They were going to be Mammy and Daddy. And on his 3rd birthday, I fell asleep after taking an overdose with this photograph in my hand. And I woke up the next day in intensive care after having my stomach pumped.
Yeah.
And that was really hard because I was almost angry that I was saved. Now, I'm glad today I was saved, but at that time, I just couldn't live anymore because my heart was broke. The bond I had with him was still there.
You were grieving for your child.
It was like another death, like my dad again.
Yeah.
And
So how did you come through that then?
I kind of muddled along for years, to be honest. I never really went for counselling, and this is the problem. All of my traumas built into one nearly.
Yeah.
Without being dealt with.
So you, like you said, you muddled along, you were in a relationship, but other events happened throughout your life that I suppose more trauma, I suppose,
massive chunk, yeah.
to say that, but that we're just not going to talk about here tonight for legal reasons. We can't talk about it. So we're moving on another few years then, and you met your partner.
Yes.
What's his name?
Sean.
Sean. And you went on to have 3 children. But even in all the good things that you have in your life, or got in your life, I suppose, at that stage, it was always overshadowed by the loss of your baby.
Absolutely. I always felt guilty I wasn't strong enough to have him with me and didn't fight harder, even though I know now I couldn't have.
Yeah. And you did experience postnatal depression then as well.
Yes, especially with my little girl. She was colic baby, and at the time I was a single mum, and she was so sick with colic for a full 12 months. And with that came this, I thought I wasn't good enough, and it was my fault she had colic nearly, because this is the stuff, of course it's my fault, this is why the baby's this way.
Yeah.
Everything that would go wrong, I blamed myself because I wasn't good enough for them.
Yeah.
And it was hard because it kind of took the good out of something so special.
You couldn't enjoy.
Yeah, I was
your
always
baby
waiting for
and-
something to go wrong.
Yeah.
After
And
I'd have
it was
them.
going to be your fault then, no matter
Absolutely,
what happened.
yeah.
Okay. 2014, that was a pivotal year really for you. Tell us a bit
Yes.
about that.
Well, in 2010 I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I had been working up until that point, and I had to quit my job. It was so severe. And in 2014, a really close cousin of mine and a friend passed away suddenly, and I can't describe it. I went into a darkness. That's all I can describe it as. I couldn't see anything good in the world anymore.
It was the grief again.
Everything hit me
just
that
from
ever
her.
happened to me all at once.
Yeah. And what did you do?
Hubert McHugh. That's what happened to me. Hubert McHugh was sent to me from my GP one day. It was a Saturday, I think. And for the first time, that man, he's an angel. Only for you, Hubert. He listened to me, and I told him everything that I'd never told anyone before. He got everything on that day.
And by all accounts, you didn't make it easy for him the first time he
No.
came.
I basically said, there's not much point in you coming here now after all that's happened, I think. But yeah, I was just done. I was done with people trying to fix things because I couldn't see anything
But
being
he
fixed.
persevered. And
Oh, he sure did, yes.
you started to believe that maybe you were worth the help.
Well, even getting in touch with the mental health team and starting on an antidepressant properly and taking it properly and keep attending your mental health class or your appointments till you're feeling better.
Yeah.
And counselling as well.
Yeah, so all
Big
those
help.
things together. I know you found other ways yourself now within your life to keep yourself well and to keep yourself going. You have your dogs.
Dogs and nature, gardening, anything that I'm outside doing, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those things together with minding yourself and keeping your head in a good space.
Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
really important.
So how is life for you now? How are things now?
Well,
Given
life-
all that you've gone through.
It's not perfect, but I can now see that it wasn't my fault, all them things that happened to me. And I actually am nicer to myself now, whereas I used to be very mean to myself. I was never good to me. And yeah, I feel in a different place. It was like there was a filter over everything when I was sad. Everything was dark.
Yeah.
I even started to say to people, like, look at the colours of the trees and stuff like that. I hadn't seen it in years because everything was so gloomy in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. And it's a great thing to be able to say now. And I suppose,
You don't know you're there until you come out the other side,
Yeah.
really.
and I suppose everyone has days. Not every day is a good day. Everyone has days like that.
I have bad days still, of course.
Yeah. But
They're less.
They're less. And you know that it will pass. It's not something that
Exactly,
you
yeah.
have to live with every day.
Or I'll change what I'm doing, go outside even, and it'll just pass the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
I suppose talking to you, Martina, it was very clear that when you were 16, you didn't have a voice.
no.
But we're hearing you loud and clear here tonight. And I suppose if you had one thing or one message that you wanted people to take away from our conversation here tonight, what would that be?
Don't give up on yourself. You're worth it. No matter how bad it seems, you've went through the worst bit. Getting help is actually easier, and you need to speak to somebody. Anyone, just one person.
One person makes the
Don't
difference.
hold it all into yourself. It does a lot of damage.
Okay. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind, literally, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Martina Mitchell. Now, well done, Martina. That wasn't an easy thing to do, and I know you were nervous. Now, our next guest is Mr. Martin McHugh. Where is he? There he is.
Hello, everybody. I know I'm small and all that, but the step does help a lot. Happy enough, yeah? Thanks, Hubert. Fair play to you. Good evening, everybody, and good to see great numbers here tonight. I'm here to talk a small bit about my life and my journey on and off the field. I'm from Auckland, and GA is my life, it's my passion, it's my drive, on and off the field. On the field, I started playing football when I was 8 or 9 years old in the back field of the house or in the schoolyard. And 43, 44 years later, I'm still talking out for my club at home. I'm 52 in 2 weeks' time. Yeah, and I'm still talking out, which is mad in the head, but, you know, I love the game so much. I've won a lot. You know, growing up in the schoolyard and playing with your teammates at home from the underage up to senior, playing in the men's team at 16 years old, being called up to the Leitrim team at the county under 16s, the minors, being part of the Connacht team that won the under 21 title in 1991. Took a break from that. Then John O'Mahony called us back in again as part of that team that won the Connacht title in 94. In that great day in Hyde Park when we bet Mayo in the Connacht final. Sorry, Andy. We played Roscommon first and then Galway, then Mayo. And, you know, it was a great day for Leitrim, and went on to still playing football with my club at home. And then I transferred to a club in Longford when I was living there, and thank God I won a lot there as well. But it's not about the winning and all that, it's what I had to do to survive. People ask me why I'm still playing at 52 years old. I love the game. But it's not just that I love the game, it's what I've been through off the field. In 2009, I was getting ready for the season ahead. I was 39 years old. I was in the gym. I was doing extra runs to try and keep up with lads 15 or 20 years younger than me. It was hard work, but I enjoyed it so much, that's why I kept going. But one night, I found a lump in my groin. As a typical man, I paid no heed to it. It was there for a couple of weeks. It was small, size of a bean, but it wasn't sore, it wasn't paining me. But after 3 or 4 weeks, the lump was still there. So I went to Dr. Loftus in Drumshanbo, the team doctor we had for Leitrim. He had all my records, which is fairly long at this stage now. And he sent me to a specialist in Sligo, and he had a look at it. And he said, look, it's a simple operation. We'll bring you in, get the lump removed, and we send it off for results. That's great, no problem. Had the operation on Friday, sent home Saturday, and he said, we'll let you know in 2 weeks. Rang back 4 days later, says, come in, we'll have a chat. I says, no problem. I drove in, I was a painter at the time, working in Sligo. Went in, sat down, and little did I know what he's going to tell me was going to change my life forever. I'm sorry to tell you, you have testicular cancer. Right there and then, my whole world fell apart. Straight away, I was thinking of death, and wasn't thinking of anything else. You know, I went into a daze for a couple of minutes, and I could see no way out straight away. So I asked the doctor to repeat himself. He said, you have testicular cancer, but you're at the early stage of assessments and tests and more x-rays and all that to see what's going on. Went down for an ultrasound, and we found more in my testicle. Double a blow in one day. So I rang home, I rang a few friends and all that, and every one of them says, you're not on your own, we're there to support you. That helped a lot, because I knew I wasn't on my own, but at the back of my mind, I was thinking of death. I couldn't get cancer out of my head. So over the next couple of weeks, there was a few more tests and MRIs and scans and all that to see what's going on, why the cancer was forming my testicle and the first lump was forming my groin and all that. But I ended up have to have the testicle removed. It was a great way to lose a bit of weight. So, you know, so I went down to Galway to have the testicle removed, and this is where my teammates and my friends came into the equation. I had the operation on a Monday, but I had to stay in hospital on the Friday for that weekend because the beds were very short, and I was going to be first on the list. So I went to hospital that Friday evening, but I had a match on Sunday afternoon. And I says, how am I going to get out of this? So I said to the doctor, can I go down to a bit of shopping on Sunday? You know, and he says, you can, no problem. So before I left for the hospital on Friday, I packed my bag for my match on Sunday and went to the hospital. And on Sunday morning came, I asked the nurse, can I go down and do a bit of shopping? You know, and sure enough, she said yes. The doctor says you can do that. I signed me note that I can go downtown, do a bit of shopping. Hopped in the car, drove down to Longford. And sure enough, the manager didn't want to play me because I knew it was going to be my last game. And Stephen Waters in goals, but the game wasn't going our way. So at half-time, put me in goals at half-time and Stephen in midfield. We won the game by a couple of points. But it was an emotional time for me as well because it was my last game. Now, me and GA and the football were twins. I can't live without it. And it's my drive. It was not just that, though. I wasn't on my own. I think it was one of the first times I realised I was going to have help and support from my teammates. And sure enough, the manager said a few words, some of the lads said a few words, and I started crying because I knew it was my last game for probably the rest of the year. The treatment I was getting chemo. Now, we all know what chemo does to the body now. It's not nice. Some people are on chemo once a day, once a week, once a month. I was getting a lot. I was getting chemo every day for a week. One shot on a Thursday, another shot on the following Thursday. I getting 3 rounds of that. And the amount of information you're given you're covering all the angles between losing hair, losing weight, putting on weight, your taste for food is going out the door, everything is a lot of things on it. But it does prepare you for the worst and hope for the best. So I thought. The chemo was starting on a Monday morning, and Dr. Google wasn't around at the time, so we had to look at all the papers and all that to see what's going to happen to me. Had my arm ready for the chemo, and I was panicking a small bit. I said, geez, this is going to my arm, it's going to hurt, it's going to burn. But thank God, it's like a normal drip going in your arm, and everything's okay. So it's like that every day. After the first week, I was feeling good, I was feeling great, and I was at home on a Saturday morning, and the lawn was long. I go mow the lawn. 5 minutes into it, start getting sick. Start puking my guts up. Went inside, got sick again. Then fell asleep. Woke up, got sick again. I said, this is the start of it. The second round of chemo, it was a bit tougher. I was more tired and all that. And went to have a shower after one of the sessions of chemo. And my hair started falling out. It wasn't emotional, but I think I knew it was going to happen sometime. But it's a bit strange when you're in the shower and you have these clumps of hair falling out. So I said, to hell with it, let's shave it all off anyway. Looked in the mirror, said, oh my God, look at this fella. I have a big bald head. For once you could see my big ears. And I have a scar here at the back of the head where he got hit with a trailer back home. I have a scar over here somewhere, somebody gave me a boot in the head. But the funny thing was, when I walked out of the ward, there were 6 other patients in the same boat as me. So I wasn't alone. So you didn't feel you're on your own in this situation. And everybody started talking, and like we're all one big happy family there. Like we all knew what everybody's going through. The third round of chemo really put me to the wall. Yeah, I was really, really tested. I was tested mentally, physically, emotionally. I was really at my wit's end because I was so sick. I had diarrhea and I puking all at the same time. I was tired all the time. I was cranky. My mental state was, I tell you how bad it was. I was thinking of death. I wanted to die. The pain was too much. And at one stage, I think it was on a Thursday afternoon, I was looking at the pearly gates of heaven. The pain was too much. But this is where the GA and my friends came into it. I get a phone call from a club in Cavan, Cushelock. I was training with them the year before that, just getting a few sessions. And the manager asked me how I was doing, checking up on me and all that, But I knew he was ringing for a reason. So I asked him, what do you want? And he says, no, we don't need you, all right. I says, what do you want? With a tone. And he says, we're training tonight. Oh, have you? What time is that? 8 o'clock. I'll be there. I say, sure. I says, yeah. But you're sick. Yeah, but I'll be all right in 5 minutes. So, sure enough, I says I'd be there at 7:30. And I went to sleep for a few hours. And I got my gear ready around 6 o'clock. It's an hour and a half drive from Sligo to Cushelock. And sure enough, from Sligo to Cushelock, I stopped 2 or 3 times just to get sick again. But when I got to the pitch and I got in the dressing room and tugged out, I felt alive. I felt good. And then when I walked out of the field, I said, this is great. I wasn't thinking of death. I wasn't thinking of cancer. And I wasn't thinking of, puking into a bucket and all that. And this is where I want to be, the field of dreams. I set up the cones, got the footballs ready. The lads came out saying, greet me and all that. Had a bit of crack, had a chat and all that. I had a great session. Even though in the middle of the session, I had to go behind the bushes to get sick. And they asked me, they said, what's wrong with you? No, I have something in my eye. But I think they're going to send me home early. But, after that, I felt great. And I said, this is what I want to do. It got me off my ass to do something. Stop feeling sorry for myself. Stop thinking about cancer and chemo and death. And when I got home, sure enough, I fell asleep and all that. But what else can I do? And went down to see my teammates in Longford, Clongish. And like that, I was there in lots of time. The slagging started. excuse the language. McHugh, look at the fat ass in you. McHugh, look at the big bald head in you. But it's a bit of slander, a bit of crack, you know, and then I felt good, and lads were just taking mickey of me, but it was good banter and all that, you know. And the manager asked me to say a few words because the players were going through a phase of, oh, I don't want to train, I have a sore leg. Oh, I don't want to train, I have a sore back. You know, oh, I don't want to train, I have a pain in my head. And I more or less says, lads, look at me. I wish I was training with you, but I can't. I'm just dying, lads. I'm sick as a dog. And you're whinging and crying about football, and you're whinging and crying about sore back and a pain in the head. Whatever happens, lads, I'll be there to support you. If I bring the bed with me, I'll go to every game with you. Sure enough, we got to the county final. I tugged out. And I was saying to Stephen, that, look, if we win this game by a couple of points, fake an injury, I'll run under the crowd into the field, I'll wave to the crowd, I'll retire happy, and that'll be it. So I thought. But the game wasn't going away, and we're 3-3 at half time, and the blame game was on in the dressing room, and I stood up and lit the roof for my language. And I'm not going to say what I said, but sure enough, the lads went out and won the game by a point. And with that, I was patting everybody in the back and all that. And Paul Barden, the captain, said, you're coming up to lift a cup of me. I said, you're queer with that. No, this is your day. Oh no, that's some speech you gave us at half time. You're coming up. I went up and somebody threw a jersey in me and all that. And I was bald as a coot, like, you know, and a big belly in me now, because it was only a few weeks after chemo. But for me personally, like, I won the under 21 title with Leitrim, and in 94 again as well. But to be up there to lift a cup with Paul and my teammates behind me and the supporters in front of me, and I said, Jesus, this is great. This is where I wanted to be. Because the road I had before that was hard and tough. And I mean, it was very, very tough. But for that moment, when I lifted the cup with Paul Barden, I knew in my heart I had back cancer that time. You know, it was a really, really proud moment for myself, you know, for my team, my neighbours, the support I had all the time. Like, cancer is horrible. You know, it's 3 words you don't want to hear. You know, you can deal with, you can't have this, you can't have that. I'm not in the mood, darling. You know, but hearing them words, you have cancer, is horrible. But there's 2 ways to go. You can sit in a corner and feel sorry for yourself, or take it head on and fight it, because you're not on your own. And the biggest thing any person has to do, men in particular, is look, I need to talk to somebody, I have a lump. The doctors give me some bad news. Because I guarantee you, when you're in the pub, in my free time I give talks to schools and all this, and one of the lines is this one. You're in the pub, and there's 5 women over there in the corner, and there's 5 men over there in that corner. Women, hands up, I applaud ye. Ye will be talking about the bits and pieces. Men, football, farm and weather. You know, so, you know, it is hard to accept, but the nurses and the doctors that do so much work out there, you know, that they don't get half enough credit for what they do for us, that if you are ever diagnosed, there's help there for you, the support is there for you, and the treatment galore. And that's after having cancer in 2009. I was able to go back painting, and I took up a course in healthcare and computers, you know, not knowing what was ahead of me. And one of the modules in healthcare, in the courses doing, was a work experience in healthcare. So I got 2 weeks work in the hospital, and you know, I didn't know what was ahead of me. I was introduced to seeing them that was there, and one of the nurses showed me what to do and help her out with a few patients. The first patient had dementia. Well, Paddy, how's it going? F off you, who are you? Jeez, you don't get that in class. The second patient, had bowels everywhere, and took me 5 minutes to clean them up because, all right, Paddy, right. But after a week, 2 weeks working there, I love what I was doing, and seeing them notice that I was good with patients and all that, and jumping ahead 8 years later, I'm still there. But I was employed by an agency down in Ennis called TTM. They took me on. They were mad look for male carers. And they wanted a letter from the doctor to say I was healthy and all that. At this stage, I was feeling good. I was back training and eating normally and all that, I went down to the doctor and, look, I need a letter from you to say that I'm going to get a job in the hospital. Oh, that's great. Well done, Martin. Let's have a look at your results. Now, religiously, I get my bloods taken every 6 months. I never pass it. And sure enough, my bloods were taken 2 or 3 weeks before this. And she looked at the screen. Oh, yes, I have your results here, Martin. Your liver's okay. Your kidney's okay. Martin, your cholesterol is up a small bit. Yeah, I know, doctor. I'm a bit on the fat side, Most dry, I know. And sure enough, Anya, she says, your PSA is up. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of men don't know what PSA is. It's related to your prostate. And a lot of men don't know what a prostate is. I didn't know. And she says, look, your numbers, it's not much to worry about. It's only like level 2. But we'll give you another blood test to see what's going on. The next 2 or 3 blood tests, my number was rising. I went down to the rapid prostate unit in Galway, had an examination there, and had a biopsy done on my prostate to see what's going on. Had to wait for weeks for that. But I was feeling good. Again, there's no pain, no nothing like that. I get a phone call from the specialist, Dr. Durkin in Galway. Can you come down to Galway, have your results of the prostate? That's grand. I always bring somebody with me for any results and all that. I brought my partner with me at the time. Her husband still doesn't know yet. I always throw that in there. I went down to Dr. Durkin, and sure enough, he sat me down anyway. And he says, your results are back, you have prostate cancer. Oh my God, here we go again. Diarrhea, puking, baldness, chemo, death. But straight away he says, we caught this early. You have options ahead of you. And jumping ahead, the options were like radiotherapy, brachytherapy, and robotic surgery. So all them options ahead of me is my choice. In the end, I had the robotic surgery to remove the prostate. More weight lost. That's great, isn't it? The lump's taken out of me. And sure enough, it was the right option because, I could have the radiotherapy or the brachytherapy where the seeds are put in the prostate, but your prostate is still there. And it would do the job and the cancer be gone, but the prostate will still be there. I went for the operation to get the prostate gone. It's gone. It's down the sewers, the rats are eating it, whatever they want. But thank God, now I'm cancer-free. I'm still talking out my teammates at home. We're preparing for the semi-final championship Saturday week. I know I had many battles on the field against St. Pat's Dromahair. Had to get that one in there. But now for myself, folks, I enjoy life now. I think I enjoy life more now than I did before I diagnosed with cancer, because we don't know what path's ahead of us. We don't know what's ahead of us in regarding your everyday living. We don't know what's going to happen. We're not on our own out here. There's always help every shape or form. And I had that. I had that in the form of my teammates, my neighbours, my friends. Even back home at my sickest, I know there's people back home in Knocknasheelan lighting candles every day in the church, and the priest had to go back in the Ballinamore get more candles because all the candles were used up. But overall, I think there is lots of help out there for people, and for men in particular. Don't be a brave man, don't be a macho man. You have a lump of a bump or a bump, it's there for a reason. Get it checked out, and if it's nothing, hunky-dory, you can go home and be happy. But if it's something, we can get, the doctors will tack it to see what's going on, and then you have loads of scans and treatment and doing all that, So, look, that's all I can say about myself and all that. So, thanks for middling, everybody, and hope you enjoyed the rest of the night, and thanks for listening. Oh yes, I have a book for sale out there. It's not just about football, it's my whole life in the book as well. All right? Thanks a million, everybody.
Good man. Martin was drafted in at very short notice, and I think you'll all agree he did a great job. And he has his book down there if anybody would like a copy, Born to Save. And we wish him the very best of luck with that. Now, we've reached our interval. Thank the Lord. We're that far on. So we're going to take a 20-minute break just to give you a chance to stretch your legs, use the toilets, and we'll be coming back with our raffle just after the interval. So if we could try and have everyone back in their seats by 9:30 and we'll get started again, okay? Thank you. Now, our next guest tonight has also just released his own memoir, Forever a Rock and Roll Kid. I know some of you have got it here tonight. He's going to get our second half started. Will you please welcome Charlie McGettigan?
Good evening. Can you hear me? You lucky people. Greetings from South Leitrim, where it all happens. I know there's a bit of resentment from this side of the place for South Leitrim, but all the big shots are living down there now. Charlie McGettigan, Brian Dobson. Brian Dobson, you know, lives down there. We call him Dobbo for short. But not many people know that Ronnie Woods, you know who Ronnie Woods is? The Rolling Stones, Ronnie Woods. He has a place in Ballinaglara, believe it or not. And every sort of 2 or 3 months he comes down, brings all his friends down. And there's a little pub down there. It's one of those pubs where they don't have any music, they don't have any television on. They're just old fellas up talking about the price of cattle and sheep and all that kind of stuff. But Ronnie would bring his friends down there and he'd sort of, after about a half an hour, they'd all be singing The Wild Rover and thinking they were Irish fellas, you know. And they don't like music in this pub, so the fellow that owns the pub, he went over and says, look, we don't like music in here, so you'll have to stay quiet. If you don't stay quiet, I'll have to ask you to leave. Okay, mate, that's all right, that's okay. But it all started again, another half an hour went by. He said, I told you. I said, I don't want music, I'll have to leave. And he said, come over here. He said, you see that guy over there? You know who that is? No. That's Mick Jagger, that is. He says, I don't care if it's Daniel O'Donnell, he's not singing in here. Funny thing, listening to all the speakers, one thing I hate is when you're walking out for a walk and you meet someone and you say, hello, and they walk past you with a stone face. I hate that. So maybe there could be somebody very lonely beside you, so maybe turn around to them and say, hello, go on, hello. Say hi. Right, that's enough. Say hello, say hi, show a little twinkle in your eye. There's a message you can send, it's not hard to comprehend. Greet a stranger like a friend, just say hello, say hi. Say hello, say hi, don't let them pass by. 'Cause there's a wonder in a smile, show them that you like their style. Linger for a little while, just say hello, say hi. And even if the troubles of the world are down on you, a trouble shared is a trouble spared, so here's what you should do. Say hello, say hi, it's something that you can't buy. Don't just mumble, make it clear. Feel your troubles disappear. Watch them wipe away a tear. Just say hello, say hi. And even if it feels like they may not say hi to you, Friends are rarely how they seem, so here's what you should do. Say hello, say hi, it's easy if you try. Just make the effort to be nice. Take a chance and break the ice. There's so much love to realize. Say hello, don't say no, just say hello, say hi. Thank you. You know, it's just lovely to play in a church because everybody has to stay quiet, whether they like it or not. But I'm a member of our choir in Dromahair for the last 40 years. And the great thing about in a choir, when you're looking down from the gallery, you can see those people that you thought had a great big head of hair, they actually have a comb over and they're bald on the top. But I remember I was down the church one particular day and there was a fella in front of me. You know those guys that come about 20 minutes before Mass and the rosary beads out and they're on their own. You can hear them praying away. But I noticed that he was saying, he'd say Hail Mary, and then he'd go, and then he'd go, he was bald on top, and he was doing this, and I said, I tapped him, I said, get him out in the open, and I'll get him with my prayer book. But you know, that's what churches are. We've got the graveyard is beside our church, and I remember one particular Sunday morning, there was this really old man, big, tall, gaunt man, and he was wandering around, and the town wag, of course, comes up behind him, and he says, hey, you looking for something? He says, I'm looking for a grave. He said, well, what's wrong with the one you got out of? I love to have fun at Mass, you know. I met a lady down there who very kindly bought my book, and I was listening to Martina's stories. Martina gone, she's still here. How are you, Martina? Where are you? There somewhere. I met Martina before and read your piece in the Times. It was a great, very encouraging piece. I wrote this song about 35 years ago, and it was inspired by the story of a girl called Anne Lovett in Granard, who sadly went through the same experience as you did, Martina, but it had a very unhappy ending. She died in the grotto in Granard, and her baby as well. But I made my mind up then that she had gone through her pregnancy and not told anybody. She wore big, heavy jumpers so that they wouldn't see the bump. And she didn't even tell her friends. So I made up my mind that if ever my kids, my own girls, ever got into trouble or got, you know, whether they got pregnant or whatever it was, I would have to make them feel that they could come and tell me about it. So I wrote this song about that, and this is especially for the lady who asked for bought me my book. I'm used to saying CD or this book. So it goes like this. I hope you find the feet of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. It won't be easy, but what can I say? 'Cause there will be trouble on the way, and around every corner, terror and tears. Just always remember that we're here. I hope you find the feet of the dancers. Come on. Hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. And I hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who'll care. I hope you find all the right directions everywhere. Everywhere. A shoulder to cry on whenever you're low. You can rely on us, you know. 'Cause there's nothing too crazy and there's nothing too dear. Just always remember that we're here. Let's hear you. And I hope beat of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who'll care. I hope you find all the right directions everywhere, everywhere. And even when the rain comes falling down, and oh, it's a falling down on you, I hope you find the feet of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. And I hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who cares. I hope you find all the right directions everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Always remember that we're here. Feet of a dancer, feet of a dancer. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hubert went into an earlier blind panic there. He thought I wasn't going to do a medley of my greatest hit. What are you laughing at? How many hits have you had? Come on, Tommy Moore, how many hits have you had? Too many to do. And they were all in the back of the head. Funny, the rock and roll kids. Back in '94, we won the Connacht final in the Eurovision Song Contest in the same year. That'd be a great quiz question somewhere down the line. But you know, you get a big head about yourself when you win the Eurovision Song Contest. But people in Leitrim bring you down to earth very quickly. I remember going into Conway's pub a few weeks after we won. And this fella that I used to work with, Peter Gilmartin, he says, here's Charlie McGettigan now. All we ever see now is you're on the television. And I said, yeah, Pete, we're actually on a Friday night, the Late Late Show. And he looked, I might watch it. I remember '62. I was 16 and so were you, and we lived next door on the avenue. Jerry Lee was big and Elvis too. Blue jeans and blue suede shoes, and we never knew what life held in store. We just wanted to rock and roll forevermore. Let's hear you sing. You ready? The rock and roll kids, rock and roll was all we did, and listening to those songs on the radio. I was yours and you were mine, and that was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. Anybody remember the other fella's name? Come on. Not Paul Carrington, not Derek Harrington, but Paul Harrington. And Paul is a dub and I'm from the country, so we were an ideal match. But the Christmas after we won, we were playing a gig in a care centre in just outside Drumshambo. And you can imagine how pissed off we were. Not one person in the place had a clue who we were, you know. And I got this old woman up against the wall. I said, do you know who I am? She says, I'm not sure, but if you ask the nurse, she'll tell you. And she did. Now Johnny's in love with the girl next door. Mary's down at the record store. They don't want to be around us no more. We're golden oldies, but we hardly speak. Too busy running to a different beat, hard to understand. We were once like them. How I wish we could find those rock and roll days again. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did. And listening to that songs on the radio. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. Only that same day, I remember I was talking to this old lady. She was too unwell to get up out of the bed, but we chatted for a while. But there was a bowl of peanuts on top of on the table, you know, there what you can eat your dinner off, you know, there. And I was nibbling away at the peanuts, and the next thing I realised I was after eating the entire bowl of peanuts. I said, God, missus, I'm sorry, I'm after eating all your... Oh, don't worry, son, sure. Since I lost my teeth, I'm only able to suck the chocolate off them anyhow. I haven't been able to look at the peanuts since. But you try a chorus on your own. Are you ready? I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll. We just never seem to rock and roll anymore. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.
The brilliant Charlie McGettigan there. Now we're ready to go again, and our next guest I don't think needs any introduction. He's brought great energy and belief to Leitrim football since he's taken over. Will you please welcome Andy Moran?
Hi guys, I was saying to Colin earlier, I was saying thank God I didn't have to talk after Frank, you know. Now you put Charlie singing and put me up next, which is no pressure, but what a great night. Talkers at the start, Tracy, Frank, Martina, Martin, Charlie, absolutely amazing. And if I'm here representing Leitrim GAA, I'm absolutely honoured to be here. So thanks very much for having me. It's a great honour, to be honest, to be here. So well done to everyone who organised it, and hopefully I don't bore you. I'll hold you for about 10 minutes. We'll have a bit of crack. But yeah, when I heard there was a Derry man coming, I thought you Joe Brolly, so thank God you brought Frank in. That was a start. But so, guys, what I'm here to talk about, exercise and how it affects all our physical and mental health. That's what we're really here to. That's what I'm here to talk about. You know me, I suppose, as Leitrim football senior manager, which I'm very honoured to hold. But my day business is we run 3 gyms. We have 3 gyms. Myself and my wife Jennifer. We have 3 gyms, and when I first started off the gym, I thought, like everyone, it's aesthetics, football teams, all this sort of stuff. But I began to realise over the long term, this is not what I'm into. So the way we run our gyms is for the normal Joe subs. I'm not trying to sell memberships, don't worry, but it's for the normal Joe 9-to-5ers, grannies, granddads, mums, dads, 16-year-old kids, people who want to just get moving. That's the way we run our gym, and we've had great fun. But we've noticed stuff over the course of the 7 years that we've been open that I hope can I can just tell you tonight, and you can kind of go through it. So if I start off and I just go just from the World Health Organization, what is health? And they state health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Okay, so it's not just your physical. Okay, so it brings in the mental there straight away. And then if you think, they have a definition for mental health. So mental health is the state of well-being in which an individual realises his or her own capabilities, can cope with the normal stress of life, and can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So again, I'm here with the JA hat on. What is the biggest sense of community within Leitrim, within the west of Ireland, if we just say? The JA is there in the centre of every small community. So mental health, I often say it's a bit invisible. So I use my poor dad who passed away in 2018. Dad had a great life. I sometimes say he lived two lives. That's a story in itself. But before he died, he developed Alzheimer's. And he was always given out to me for the clothes I wear. As you can see, I'm not the most fashionable. But he used to wear a suit everywhere. He was a big man, hair gelled, everything. He was always given out to me, where's your tie and all this sort of stuff. But if you'd seen him with Alzheimer's, you wouldn't have known any different. He looked absolutely perfect. But it was just when you talk to him, you get to know it. So that's invisible. When he developed Parkinson's, then the shake came, and then you could say, okay, there's something wrong with Vince Moore here, and you could see. So mental health kind of falls into that state as well, where something, somewhere, somebody here is quietly suffering and you just can't see it. So sometimes that connectivity that Frank is talking about there, sometimes we just need to ask the question and kind of help each other out. And where exercise comes into it, if I ask people here, Joe, why do people exercise? An awful lot of people would write down on the sheet, if I asked you, would say to lose weight. And I've heard weight mentioned a good bit tonight. And you do. It affects your metabolism. It gets you moving. Of course it does. It gets you going. But it's probably 80-20. Food is the key thing to lose weight. The biggest thing why we exercise, and the biggest effect exercise has on the biggest part of your body exercise has on, is actually your brain. Okay? So if I offered you a magic pill to build motivation, focus, attention, would you take that pill? We all would, wouldn't we? And that magic pill, guys, is not in all cases, is exercise. And as you've seen what Tracy said at the start, she said, what did she try to do first when she was going in for her operation? She tried to go for a walk. She went out to the nature. She tried to get the sound of the sea. She did a bit of meditation. She got herself moving. So that's a reaction. Obviously, there's at times we need a bit more, but that has helped you in the past, and it's helped us in the past. And why does this work? Similar to the gym, right? The brain is an adaptable organ. When you stress it, it builds, it gets stronger, it moves. Okay, so if you have your bicep muscle like Colin Regan there, if you're wearing that t-shirt and you're in good shape like Colin, and you're in the gym and you're working your bicep and you're lifting weights, your muscle gets stronger, it gets bigger, and you can wear t-shirts like Colin. But if you read, if you sing, you're writing songs, you're exercising, you're doing things that actually stress you in a good way, all of a sudden your brain releases hormones, neurotransmitters that we'll talk about here today. Just to put a bit of why it works, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is dopamine, right? So dopamine seeks the reward within everything. So why do people get addicted to stuff? Okay, we were on about addiction, and I was delighted to hear Frank mention cocaine, because it's such an issue, particularly now in the small towns and villages all throughout the west of Ireland and all throughout Ireland. But why do people get? Because they get a kick off it, and the kick is they get excitable, they feel free, everything. That's why you get addicted to it, and all of a sudden you're searching for that buzz again. Why do people get addicted to gambling? It's actually not the winning or losing. It's actually the, can I win? Where's the reward in this? Why did my wife get addicted to online shopping during COVID-19? Because when the van was coming in, the DPD van or whatever it was, she didn't even know what was coming, but she was excited to open the gift. So that wasn't good for me, but it was good for her. But that's why you get addicted to stuff. Have you ever went for a walk and came back, no matter how wet you got, no matter how much of a storm it was, and said, geez, I regret doing that? You've never done it. And the reason for that is because when you come back, then if you're having your tea and your biscuit or your reward before you go to bed, you've earned it a tiny bit. You get a tiny bit of a reward from it. Your brain releases this dopamine that gives you the sense of, yes, okay, I've achieved something today, let's go. Okay, bring that back into your community. Right, bring it to the connectivity if we can bring all these conversations along, and you bring somebody with you, right, and you go for it, and then you're talking, and you're getting the exercise, you're getting the talk, you're getting a bit of connectivity into you, and all of a sudden the dopamine hit gets stronger and stronger. Okay, the second one we're going to talk about is serotonin. So as I said, we own gyms. Our 2 busiest classes in our gym is 6:45 a.m. in the morning before work and 5:15 after work. I understand that that is for convenience as well. But if you think about it, for mood and your anger is controlled by your release of serotonin from your brain. Okay? When you exercise, you get an absolute drive of serotonin. People going to work come into me at 6:45, they will not even look at me going up that stairs. They'll nearly growl at me. When they come down, they're smiling, they're happy, they're ready to go to work. When they come home, they're about to go home to meet their kids, do their homework, maybe deal with the stresses they have at home, come in, do the workout, all of a sudden they leave, they're in a bit better form, they're a bit better energy and away they go. Their control, their anger is in, their mood is in better condition when they're going home. Why do we send our kids off playing sports? Yes, there's a social aspect, but I have a little 4-year-old at home, lads, and he went to swimming today. He's in better humour when he comes home from swimming, because I'll tell you, he would wreck the house. But even since he went to school, he started exercising at lunchtime, at break time, and he's coming home, his humour is now beginning to get controlled, because now he's exercising, all of this, he's playing with his friends, serotonin has been released. Okay, so dopamine, serotonin is up. The third one and last one before I bore you is norepinephrine, it's called. Again, you don't have to realise this, but I think this was important, because we've all got kids that are going to do junior certs, leaving certs, and what we tend to do is pull them away from sport. Yes, if there's kids like some of us that played 5 sports, you have to pull away for 1 or 2 because you have to leave time for study. But when this norepinephrine is released, which is a huge release from exercise, it builds attention. It increases your attention. Okay? So we want to send our kids to sport. Don't be pulling them away from it. Yes, control and make sure they're studying, but we want to send them off. Okay? Again, for us, going to work in the morning, you do a tiny bit of exercise, your attention goes up. You read a book, you stress yourself in any way or form, it's going to help you in any way. Okay? So what I want, if you can get anything out of this, just realise there's a reason why people say exercise is good for you. We all know it's good for us, but why do we actually do it? Because it controls some parts of the hormones, the neurotransmitters that are going to be released from your brain moving forward. How do we exercise? Any way you want. Foot and turf. Gardening. Hoovering the floor. It doesn't matter. Meditation, yoga, Pilates, whatever you want. I personally absolutely love walking. Absolutely love it. Go for a walk every single night. It's just my thing. It's my hour to myself. Go for a couple of miles, come home, and for me it's headspace. And with a walk, guys, not only do you get exercise, you get the fresh air, and if you bring somebody with you, you get a bit of community, you get a bit of exercise going. Within the community then, if you see somebody struggling, instead of just going up, like what Frank said, asking Michael, how is he? He mightn't tell you, but you bring him for a walk and you spend 20 or 30 minutes, you have a better chance of getting it out of him. So bring him with you. Okay? I often see my little fella, as I said, he's my girlie, she's an angel. She wouldn't say a bad word. She might say to you, you said the F word, Daddy, but she won't say it. If I say the F word, the book will say it back to me, right? So my point is that they'll catch the bad habits. They'll catch the bad habits. Our job as parents, grandparents, mentors, friends, is to try to teach our kids the good habits. I'm telling you, if they see you long enough doing something good, they will follow in your footsteps, because there's a reason why they follow the bad stuff, but they'll definitely follow the good stuff. So, guys, as best you can within your community, look at what we set up tonight. In your bingo clubs, in your men's sheds, in your football clubs, in your schools, whatever you're going into tomorrow, bring somebody with you. Go for a walk, 20 minutes. You'll feel better, your community will benefit, and all of a sudden the cycle gets a whole lot better. Thanks a million for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Now we're about to welcome another former Leitrim footballer who has worked his way up through the ranks of the GAA and is now the Community and Health Manager in Croke Park. Please welcome Colin Regan.
Thanks very much, Valerie. Absolutely delighted to be here, folks. Great to be back in lovely Leitrim. I get invited to a lot of these events. I've been up in Croke Park back since 2010 now, and sometimes you're heading off on a Thursday evening down to some part of the country and you're just saying, I don't need this tonight. But tonight I actually did think I needed this tonight, because it had been a while since I reconnected into this part of Leitrim, and it never fails to re-energise me and remind me just why it is called lovely Leitrim. So thanks a million for having me here tonight. I just want to kind of maybe sum up the night, really, and gather together what all the brilliant speakers have said, and maybe give you a couple of very simple take-homes in terms of maybe how you might want to adapt some of the advice that all of these here intelligent and articulate people have presented tonight. They've made my job very easy, because I've just came scribbling a few notes as they were all speaking. And I've learned an awful lot tonight as well. I know I'm going to be taking on some of the advice that I got here for sure. Just very briefly, people often ask what are those suits doing up in Croke Park, and right now we're trying to work on how we can clone the likes of Tracy, because I think it's just important, and everybody that was involved in organising tonight, because these sort of community people are what keeps community together. It doesn't just happen. A night like tonight doesn't just happen. There's an energy in here, there's a diversity amongst the crowd, there's the diversity amongst the speakers, there's important messages around how we can live together better, and there's personal testimonies, the likes of which I don't think you would find anywhere else in the country. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and a huge thanks to Hubert and Valerie as well. I know, Hubert, you're supposed to be retired from this here crack, but that's what they say about retirement, you never get a day off. But obviously, St. Patrick's Dromahair, they're one of the shining lights for us in the Healthy Club project, and I would be absolutely thrilled if Leitrim was the first county in the country to have all clubs accredited as healthy clubs. We have, I just scribbled them down there when I was sitting down, we have 12 clubs in the county that are actually participating in the programme. So it's not a huge stretch to get, we're halfway there already, so it would be brilliant if there's anybody from another club that would like to find out more about it. Tracy or myself are available to you at any time. So to wrap it all up really and try to capture some of what has been shared here tonight, I'm just going to wonder, has anybody heard of these blue zones around the world? Anybody ever come across the blue zones? No. A lot of research done into these here 5 parts of the world. They are the places that people live longest, healthiest, and most importantly, happiest in the world. And there's a number of common characteristics along these here places, and I would love to see Leitrim become one of the new identified blue zones in the world. The first place that researchers studied was Sardinia in Italy. Anybody ever visited? Fantastic part of the world. They noticed that for some reason they had the highest number of people who are living over the age of 100, and they went to visit and research their way of life. And they then started identifying a number of other communities around the world as well. So there's a place called Loma Linda in California. There's a place called Nicoya in Costa Rica, a place called Sardinia in Italy, as I mentioned, Ikaria in Greece, series of little islands over there, and Okinawa in Japan. And these are known as the blue zones. And the only reason that they were known as a blue zone is very simple. The lead researcher, when they were studying them, when he first mapped them out, he just circled them on the map with a blue pen. It was nothing too fancy. That's why they became known as the blue zones. But everywhere now is trying to replicate the secret that they have discovered. And actually, we actually have quite a lot of it here in Leitrim already. We got a little taste of it right from the very get-go with the McFaddens and their wonderful rendition of music of how an intergenerational family come together and share learning through a passion and music. And wonderful to see Lorcan taken to the floor and reminding us about the power of dance and just how beneficial that can be, both physically, mentally and socially as well. I saw Andy Moran was taking a few notes at the time there. He was definitely jotting down a few new workout jigs for the corner forwards there, I think, Lorcan. In fact, I think it's probably been a very productive night for you in general, Lorcan, or Andy. Frank Diamond is definitely going to be recruited as the new team psychologist, I'm sure, and possibly possibly the chief entertainment officer for the squad as well. But essentially, coming back to the blue zones, what was it that they had in common? They have a huge sense of community and enormous social connections, both within their own family, in their family units, very much strong intergenerational, often live in 3 generations in the one household, which was very common around these neck of the woods until very, very recently. But then within their wider community as well, they would have many, many touch points in their community that they could take membership of and feel identity through. It could have been as simple as a women's group that would do arts and crafts, or it would be some of the men that would come together in the equivalent of what we now call men's sheds, for example. Each of the communities take a pause in the day for some reason. They do it in different ways. The community in California are Adventists. And they take every day they take significant time for prayer. That's their downtime. In Sardinia, it might be something that you might be more inclined to take up. They have a happy hour. You could combine the two potentially, Father. So they always, in this here busy, stressful life that we find ourselves living now, they find that time, like Andy does with his walk, they find a little bit of opportunity to decompress, both collectively as a community, but also personally. Diet was very significant. A lot of them, the Advents, were vegetarians. Sardinians, obviously, the famous Mediterranean diet, a lot of fish, a lot of vegetables, fresh vegetables, a lot of healthy vegetable oils. So diet is significant and important. Exercise wasn't something that they go to the gym for, Andy, but they build it into their everyday life. So that everything that they do is done, a lot of it done manually still. Housework even is considered part of the exercise that they build into their day. Gardening is an enormous part of what they do. They work the land a lot in terms of growing their own vegetables as well. Again, something we're very familiar with in this part of the world. These researchers decided to really focus in on trying to identify what was the core component that leads these here people to living happy, healthier lives. And when they pulled it apart, it was actually the connections that they had, the more meaningful connections that we have in our lives, the more likely we are to report ourselves being happier, but also it actually has a physiological impact on us, that we live longer, incredibly. Having tonight, when Tracy says, Colin, we're going to move it over to the church tonight from the town hall because we were anticipating such a big crowd. It's the second time we've been asked to do a talk in Leitrim around something like this, and the first one was in a church in Carrick-on-Shannon as well. And actually, I really liked the space, and it's the first time we've been in this here church. I must say, it's one of the most beautiful churches I've ever been in. It reflects Leitrim a lot. It's both kind of majestic and humble at the same time, which I think reflects the county in many ways. But having a faith in your life of some sort, whatever your own faith is, can extend your life by 7 to 14 years. So there's a scientific backup for this here, for a place like this in the centre of a community. When people talk about well-being, it can be obviously it has become something of a commodity now, and it can be commercialised a lot, and it can be very confusing because we're constantly being bombarded with research around what to eat, what not to eat, what to drink, what not to drink. These here researchers and another group of researchers from the New Economics Foundation over in England decided to try to distill the message down into something that everybody could remember and everybody could build into their everyday life, as I'm saying. They called it the 5 ways to well-being, and I love it because it's so simple that we would probably take a lot of it for granted and disregard a little bit of it, but they are the building blocks of how to live a healthier and happier life. So I'm going to wrap it up with kind of the 5 ways, some examples of it, how hopefully you can incorporate it into your lives and how it might make a little difference for you all. So the first one is, and it's been touched on a lot, and I won't dwell on it too much because Andy covered it brilliantly, is just to be active. You know, move more, sit less. And that can be whatever your own passion is. It could be like lurking, it could be a good dance a couple of times a day, it could be gardening, it could be going for the walk, it could be just, if you're going down to the shop, instead of getting in the car, jump on the bicycle. Everybody in this country used to cycle everywhere. You rarely see a bike on the country roads these days. The next one then is to take notice. And again, in this busy world, we can often fly through a day and get to the end of it and think, where on earth did that time go? Or, as Frank was saying, we can be sitting in a room with people that mean the most of us and spending far too much of it scrolling down on a phone. But it's not just about taking notice of the world around you. And in Leitrim, we're absolutely blessed with some of the most spectacular scenery that you could ever wish to lay your eyes upon. It's also taking notice about your inner world and recognising how you are feeling, and if you are feeling a little bit stressed, to be able to do something about that early and to reach out, maybe like Tracy was saying, if you're feeling, you know, if you're facing some of the challenges that life is inevitably going to throw at you, to recognise that early and maybe talk about it and reach out to somebody that could help you along the way. And Andy we were talking about our kids there. I have a wee girl and a wee boy in that order too, and I don't know, is this here universal, but the wee girl is an angel and Oscar is a destroyer. But Eliza started school a couple of weeks ago, and we were having a wee chat just the day before she was due to start, and she goes, Dad, I feel like I have to breathe a little bit more often than I normally do. And I said, oh yeah, that's very normal. That's because you're a little bit nervous, you know. And when you're nervous, then your heart beats a little bit faster. She goes, yeah, I can feel it beating a little bit faster now. So I was so enthused that she was able to recognise that in herself and also have the ability to speak to her dad about it. And you know, I think if we can build that kind of emotional and physical vocabulary into our children, I think we're doing something right. The next one is about, it's a really simple one, and we've witnessed it here in abundance tonight. It's give, and that's both to give back, you know, into your community, in terms of all the volunteer hours, as I said, that went into making this here night happen. People who volunteer are happier people. You know, that is scientifically proven again through multiple research projects. And volunteering is, again, what keeps the GA ticking over. It's what keeps every community ticking over, the tidy towns, the ICA, you name it, the local church, whatever faith you happen to be from yourself. But it's also about, as Frank was saying, about giving thanks and just taking that opportunity to count your blessings when they do come. And if you can make your blessings really small, you get them every day. They don't have to be too seismic or too huge. You know, we'd all like to win the lotto, surely, but and we'd even like to win an iconic title sometime in the not too distant future, Andy. But we can appreciate that sometimes just seeing progress is something to give thanks for, and we'd like to see a bit of progress too. The next one then for me is, so we're up to 4 now. We've got to be active, keep learning, give, take notice, and then the most fundamental one is just about connecting. And as I said, the researchers all agreed that if you were to focus in on one of those 5 ways to well-being, connecting would be the one to make sure that you remain connected. I heard mental health described very well once as your relationship with yourself, with others, and with the world around you. And each one of those are managed best if you can maintain meaningful connections in them. I've been very, very fortunate in my life to have the GA as part of my life, and it has generated hugely meaningful connections for me that have scaffolded me right throughout nearly every step of my life, to be honest. And walking in here this evening, even, you know, was so many connections. Myself and Frank had connected before through some of the wonderful work he does with clubs across the north and elsewhere in terms of suicide prevention and awareness. Obviously, myself and Martin McHugh would have connected many times at training sessions and pitches, and he was always Mr. Reliable when you look back, and both at every training session that he ever attended, he gave 100%, and every time you were playing on the field and looked back in goals, you knew you were in a safe set of hands. So his story of resilience comes as no surprise to me. You've got Mr. Tommy Moore sitting over here on the left, a great old connection. Tommy was Leitrim County Secretary for 25 years, wasn't it, Tommy? 20. And I was... yeah. I was a trainee journalist in the Leitrim Observer when he retired, and I actually interviewed him for his retirement. I don't know if you remember, Tommy. And he summed it up at the end. I was like, Tommy, how did you do it? 20 years. How did you do it? And what he said has stayed with me ever since. And he goes, Colin, it was easy enough. He goes, in Kerry they celebrate when they win All Irelands, and in Leitrim we celebrate when we win. And I think that was a great philosophy for Leitrim fans, because if any of you are wondering how to build resilience in your child, get them to play for Leitrim. Because you will get... Resilience is built about getting back up. That's how you build resilience. It's the ability to get back up, and that is one thing you will get in abundance while you're learning your trade with the Leitrim footballers or hurlers or Leitrim ladies. So I can highly recommend it. And then, you know, we have great connections here with Hubert and Valerie down. I have as well through the Health is Wealth, which has been a phenomenal success throughout the county, and an example, I think, of how to help a community chip away at that stigma that still exists around mental health. And I think, you know, for people like Martina to give personal testimonies like they did here tonight, it was one of the most powerful things I've heard in a very long time, and definitely really appreciate it. And I think it's an important message that you're getting out there, and keep it up. So, you know, if you can try to build in any of those 5 ways to well-being into your life and into the life of your children and your family, and share that little bit of knowledge, I think Leitrim can be well on the way to becoming one of the new blue zones that researchers might be coming to look at in 100 years' time. Tommy Moore will still be walking around. He'll be 250 at that stage. So for me, it's been just a great privilege to come back down here and to reconnect with the place I love so well, as they say. And again, just to acknowledge the work that Tracy is doing on behalf of the club and the rest of the Healthy Club project team in St Pat's Dromahair is being recognised at national level. Obviously, the trouble with doing a good job is you get promoted to county level, and then she's up at provincial level now as well. So we'll be mindful not to burn her out. But for me, I know that I have to go back to Dublin tonight, and it'll be a pleasant drive because I have the car to myself and the kids are at home with my long-suffering wife. But I'll have a lot of stuff to distill from tonight, and it's something that I know that I'll take a lot of learning from and try to incorporate into the messages that we're bringing to other communities, because just by being here in the room tonight, you have done so much for your mental and social health. And if you want to help your physical health as well, then maybe make sure tomorrow and just get out for one of those walks that Andy was encouraging. So thanks so much for having me.
Thanks very much, Colin. Now we're just going to have a few words from Father Patsy. We're on the home stretch now. We're nearly there. Father Patsy's just going to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Father. Yes, we're nearly there, folks. Have you got your wee song sheets? 2 fabulous songs, aren't they? I love that. The I Live in Free, and on the back you have Lovely Leitrim. One of my favourite, both songs I love. And of course, Charlie McGetting's going to come back too. Oh, he's beside us here, beside me. And he's going to sing for us. And you're all going to join in as well. But before that, Charlie. You know, it was mentioned there, we're giving thanks, and it has fallen to me to say thanks to everyone who has been involved in this evening. So a special word of thanks to our guest speakers. Round of applause for them, please. Martina Mitchell, Frank Diamond, Colin Regan, Andy Moran, Martina McHugh, and of course Valerie Cogan, our presenter, along with Tracy Kelly as well. So, and Hubert. Now, we're very fortunate in the parish, aren't we, to have a man like Hubert. And in fact, with Tracy, and you have Kevin down the back, and Jerry, and I'll go through the names rather than just off the head. But we're blessed to have people who, you know, we work as a team. I'd like to think we work as a team, and they're a great team. And it's not just about this night, but we have now in the parish, and Tommy knows all about it as well, Tommy Moore, because we went to visit them and their men's shed. We have a men's shed in the parish. We have a woman's, we wouldn't call it a woman's shed, there's a woman's group has been active in the parish for many years. And now we have a counselling service for those who are bereaved, and that's something tremendous to have in the parish. So a round of applause for Nolene and for Margaret and for all those involved in that. And a word of thanks, because the raffle, the proceeds of the raffle goes not only to the hospice, but we're keeping a wee bit here locally as well in the parish for the provision of counselling services. So a word of sincere thanks to your generosity. The musicians were brilliant, weren't they? All the McPaddens. And they're getting tired now if you come near the end of the night, and the dancing was beautiful. We're very fortunate with Pat Sweeney. Unfortunately, Pat isn't through. Michael couldn't join us, Michael O'Brien, but we send him our warmest greetings tonight. And most unfortunately, he couldn't be with us, as indeed Katrina Horn in the end couldn't be with us either. In the background, a lot of people working. We have John Flynn there, live streaming us around the country and maybe further afield. And then in PA, in sound system, we have Dean Kelly. And a word of thanks again to those who organised the raffle, Daniel and Kathleen Kelly and the team. I won't name the team in case I leave somebody out. Ken and Maureen Maguire were very excellent in helping to publish, be it the little music sheets, posters, and not to say we have an excellent girl who was doing the posters as well, who did a lot of the printing. I'm getting as far as her name here now. Posters, that's Maria Supple, and she did posters and photos and advertising, so that is very much appreciated. Big help then, we have to mention the big team, Jerry Fowley for the carpentry and setting up our little rostrum here, Kevin Torsney, and of course we had the St. Patrick's GAA squad out there directing traffic and helping out as well, which is very much appreciated. Flowers beautifully arranged and done by Mauro O'Hara, Teresa Kelly. And a word of thanks to Olive and to Joseph Fowley in Dromahair. And as you know, tragically, they lost their business, and sadly in a fire recently, their business. That's a bereavement, that's an awful grief that they are dealing with. And she also donated flowers here for this evening as well. Round of applause for them, please. Then there's refreshments, the women's group, and they've been very supportive to us in setting up and organising events here in the parish, and for the refreshments up in the house for our guests, and for the hospitality show, and that's Kathleen Diamond, Teresa Kelly and Maureen Maguire. And of course, folks, there's a cup of tea down in the hall, and biscuits, and maybe even some leftover sandwiches. But make sure you don't go home without a cup of tea. Big thank you to our sponsors. I want to recognise our sponsors because they really keep us afloat. Not right, Hubert? The big thanks to our sponsors. Leitrim Observer, big thanks. Leitrim Development Company, HSE, Leitrim Guardian, Shannon Side Radio, Ocean FM, Breffni Mental Health, of course I met Dennis, Midwest Radio, RT Radio, of course, the great interview was on there with Damien O'Reilly. I'm sure many of you saw that. Sligo Champion, Leitrim GAA Dromahair, Outdoor Stewarding. I'm going off on a tangent now. But a word of thanks to each and every one of you. Without your support, we couldn't run these events. Then we had loads of things for the raffle. For raffle, food hamper sponsored by Joe McGoldrick, Central Dromahair. Dinner for two was sponsored by John Kelly, Riverbank Restaurant, Dromahair. A selection of Yankee candles sponsored by McDevitt's Pharmacy in Balnamore. Dinner for two sponsored by the Blue Whale Lodge, Leitrim Village. Carrick Cineplex, or Cineplex, is it? Family Pass sponsored by Cineplex, Carrick and Shannon. There you are. Hairdo, sponsored by Gemma Crossan, Ballymote and Ballysadare. Dinner for two, sponsored by Blue Whale Lodge, Leitrim Village. Hairdo, sponsored by Mary McHugh, Market Square, Drumkieran. €50 meat voucher, sponsored by Daniel Kelly and Kathleen Kelly. A bottle of Hennessy brandy, sponsored by Josephine Fowley, Dromahair. A €40 fuel voucher, sponsored by Josephine Fowley, Dromahair. A bottle of Hennessy brandy, sponsored by Josephine Fowley, Dromahair. Thanks, Josephine. Then we had a book, Martin McHugh. Thank you most sincerely. Much appreciate that little book that's been given and won. €25 food voucher from Anne Kerrigan. Thanks to all our sponsors. Did you get a chance to go around the stalls? Well, I'm calling them stalls, maybe they're not really stalls. The information areas. You had Leitrim GAA, STOP. You had Breffni Mental Health. You had the Rape Crisis Centre, Alcohol Forum, HSE Promotion, Donald Gallagher, another Donegal man, the Samaritans, Smoking Cessation, and Northwest Hospice. These were the little just displays and all that were around the place, and there were various handouts as well. So finally, just to say thank you once again to all our speakers. Very important, and I was delighted to hear Colin mention it, the importance of our faith, you know, and we're in a place of faith. And we gather as a people of faith, and we gather as a community. We need one another. That's what's coming through in tonight's talks, isn't that right? We need one another. We've got to lean on one another. Not right, Frank, as you would say. And of course, then, you know, a very important thing. Jesus says to us in the scriptures in John's Gospel, remain close to me and I will remain close to you, Jesus says. For cut off from me, he says, you'll achieve nothing. No man, no woman is an island. Isn't that fair to say? We need and value your faith, because I often say to people that you know, they have distanced themselves from the practice of their faith. It's more than just rattling off prayers. It's a community, and this is a community event. And we bring all that is positive and wholesome. We bring it here on a Sunday night. We bring it here on a Saturday evening to give thanks and to praise God. And it's a family occasion. That's what your church is. It's a family. You're becoming part of a family, which hopefully it's a positive experience for you. And then we're nurtured and we're strengthened through our faith and belief in Jesus, truly present in the Eucharist for us. And he wants to nourish us and strengthen us. And he desires nothing but the best for us. So don't remember in all those things, the mental, the physical, the emotional, there's the spiritual. That might be a very important cog in the wheel, your spirituality. Don't disregard that. And thank God the Irish people are spiritual. We are spiritual people, irrespective of practice, but we are spiritual beings. And so remember those little words. Jesus said, remain close to me. I'll remain close to you. For cut off from me, you can do nothing. Lastly, wee Max over there in the corner. This is my last speech. He's a great wee character all through COVID, you know. Anyone who has a little pet, they bring you out of yourself. Isn't that right? COVID, when COVID pandemic came, we locked ourselves away. We shuttered ourselves in our homes. When someone came to the door, you might have been peeping out at them saying, where the hell are they going? There's a pandemic on. And you were cozy and insular in your wee home, but you see what was happening. We were isolating ourselves more and more. And you know, sadly, the world we have today, and I hate to say it, it's worse it's going to get. That's why we need these gatherings and all these organisations to get us out of ourselves. Little Mac takes me for a walk 2 times a day. The grub end of it is no problem. I don't need any help there at all. So I really feed him, take him to the vet and look after him. A very important thing as well, my father died not long, just about 2 years ago, from Parkinson's. but I always say he was on the healthy side. He was a good age, he looked after himself. But he had a great sense of humour. You can deal with anything if you have a good sense of humour. Do you agree with me? So surround yourself with people that make you feel good about yourself, and that you can get a good laugh, no matter how serious the situation is. Because if you have negative people around you, they're going to pull you down. You need positive people about you all the time. Colin, you also mentioned creativity and art. The greatest artists in the world and the greatest musicians work out of, I hate using them, brokenness. They work out sometimes out of black, dark places. Their creativity comes from deep within, and it's finding its expression in music and song. And it's coming from deep within, and that's where our music and creativity and song and all that is so important. And again, it's medicine for us. It heals us, just as our prayer heals us. Music, song, laughter, dancing, that's all healthy. But you can't do it alone. We need one another. So, lastly, my last point. The only person who can change you is yourself. So don't isolate yourself. Get out and get involved. It takes a wee effort to get out there. You have to push yourself. Even myself, you have to push to get out there. You know, I have a lot of visitation to do in the parish, but some you just say, I'm not up to the mood for it. I don't feel up to it. I'm tired, or I haven't got the energy, or how will they receive me, you know? So, but you have to do it yourself. And we have a men's shed, we have a women's group, we have counselling. Hopefully we'll get our youth clubs back going again. We had only started and COVID kicked in. But there's so much we can do as a parish, and we're so fortunate here. We have a great parish, we have great schools, we have great people, we have great sports persons here, and there's so much we can do together. There's nothing that we can't achieve or do. Now we're going to finish up now with the two little songs. Round of applause for yourselves, and thanks. Now hold on there now, we're going to have the last two songs. I want a photograph here. Okay, very fine. Okay, only two songs. Thank you. Hold on.
Valerie, push in. Yeah, go up to step Colin, and then Tracy, you push in. Push in here.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Are we going yet? Martin.
Martin, come on, Martin.
On there.
Did I mention that?
Do you want to put behind Valerie on the step?
Smile, everybody.
Well, you can finally say you're taller than more anyway, Martin.
Can you move in a little closer, Charlie, to...
Thanks so much. No, we'll all join in. Thanks for your part. No, Paul, thank you. Over here, Charlie.
I dreamt that I was back again in dear old Erin's eyes. I thought I saw Loch Allen's banks, a valley down below. But it was my holy Leitrim where the shining rod was. I stood enchanted. I stood enchanted. Can't hear you. But they bring need you for a second. You hold that up so that I don't know these words. Okay.
What's this one?
Over here.
I live in free now, coming up.
Where are you?
You're kidding.
I've met some folks. No, I've met some folks who say that I'm a dreamer, and I've no doubt there's truth in what they say. And sure, a body's bound to be a dreamer when all the things that are far away. And precious things are dreams unto an exile. They take him o'er the land across the sea. Especially when it happens he in exile from that dear land which lie loving is free. And when the moonlight peeps across the rooftops of this great city, wondrous that they be, I scarcely know the wonder and the laughter. I'm once again back home in Innisfree. Good night, everybody. Have a great, safe home journey.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
So that's it, everybody. Just to let you know, our raffle tonight, with all your generosity, we've raised €1,233. That's going to be divided between the Northwest Hospice and the local bereavement counselling service here in the parish. On my own behalf, I just want to thank Hubert for asking me to be a part of tonight. I know the huge amount of work it takes to pull an event like this together, so I want to give great credit to him and to the huge group of volunteers who also helped to make tonight such a success. Thanks to yourselves for coming. Good night and safe home, everybody.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you.